Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. Hope everyone had a great weekend. This is the first podcast of the week here on Monday, but we have a very busy week coming up because Bucs minicamp starts tomorrow on Tuesday. We will preview what we expect to see at minicamp today before it gets going tomorrow. My name is Matt Matera. Joining with me is the face of Pewter Report, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, how you doing? How was your weekend? I'm sure you're pretty happy that the Bolts won last night or yesterday afternoon.
Yes, that's an understatement. Andre Palat, goal! Tampa Bay Lightning!
That was awesome. I was in the building. For those that don't know, I was in the building watching the game. Awesome atmosphere. The whole place was electric. A little, back and forth between Lightning fans and Ranger fans, but it was great. It was such an entertaining game. I called it. I said the Rangers are going to score on that power play to make it 2-0. I said the Lightning are going to score right after that. And I went, "What did I tell you?" I was with Rangers fans, so I was antagonizing them a lot. So I was like, "What did I tell you?" But yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time.
That's awesome. Yes, and you're right, Matt. Today is a great show because not only are we previewing what is about to be the Bucs mandatory minicamp, and we'll see a friendly, familiar face that we haven't seen very much this offseason. That would be one Tom Brady. He will be there.
We saw a whole lot of him today. If you saw his commercial.
Yeah. And so we'll see Tom Brady at the mandatory minicamp. Probably not going to see one of his partners in crime. That would be Rob Gronkowski. There's an outside chance, that he might decide to sign before the mandatory minicamp tomorrow. I doubt that's going to happen. I think he's still in Gronk beach mode, off-season mode. So I suspect we'll see him before the start of training camp. I think we'll see him get signed. I'm not going to rule out a signing here over the next 24 hours, but I would expect it really to be more so towards the end of July when the Buccaneers are going to be getting ready for their training camp, their 2022 training camp, first training camp under Todd Bowles as the head coach. And Matt, it's a Monday, and you know what that means. It means that in about 17 minutes at 4:20 on Mondays, what do? We do this cool thing called roll call.
Roll call. Yeah, we want to know,
people.
Yeah, where are you at? I know we got fans here in Florida, here in Tampa, across the state, across the United States, and in other countries too. I mean, we had someone from China last week, or the last time we did roll call. Brazil. I think Germany. I saw Australia in there as well too. Yeah. Germany, which obviously those fans will be excited because the Bucs are going there this season to take on the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, please at 4:20, let us know. Tell us where you're watching from, and we'll put the comments up on the screen as you're watching this show. So yeah, it's a great way to get the fans involved, and we appreciate everyone watching. So yeah, make sure you're there at 4:20. You know where to be.
That's right. And Emmanuel was hanging out, waiting for the show to start. Guess he's early to the party. Well, the party has started. It's Monday, so we greatly appreciate that, Emmanuel, and definitely go Bucs to you as well. So Matt, we had some interesting stories over the weekend, at a pretty good traffic weekend, and we had some back-to-back stories. One was the SR's Fab 5 column on Friday, and then Bailey Adams had a story up yesterday with some interesting Jamel Dean quotes. Both of which are about the Rams and the Saints and how the Buccaneers can turn the tide, turn the tables, because they've lost now 3 straight games to the Rams, including both last year, including that playoff defeat 30-27 at Ray J that sent the Rams en route to the Super Bowl and winning it, and the Buccaneers home a little early. And of course, Matt, the Saints losing streak, well, that's back to 2018. Matter of fact, the last quarterback to beat the Saints in red and pewter was none other than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That's right. And we should wish a happy retirement to Fitzmagic, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He retired, I believe, on Friday. So yeah, news happened a little while ago. But, obviously he's a career journeyman, played for multiple different teams. But it was definitely a special time when he was with the Bucs. Obviously, he got a little time to start when Jameis got suspended, and he will be in Bucs history because of that post game where he wore Deshaun Jackson's jacket, sunglasses, and chain. So Fitzmagic, go ahead.
And the thing too is he also made NFL history with the Buccaneers, throwing for 400 yards in 3 consecutive games to start that 2018 season, beating the New Orleans Saints on the road, winning the home opener against the Philadelphia Eagles, and then coming up just a little bit short on Monday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that was quite the 3-game outing, and as has been the case with Fitz magic, the magic runs out. Like
it goes from Fitz magic to Fitz tragic, like very quickly. I've seen it like back with the Jets too. I remember Todd Bowles' first year. So, this has to do with the Bucs a little bit. Todd Bowles' first coaching season, the Jets went 10-6, but they need to go 11-5 to make the wild card. It's one of those weird years where a lot of teams were in the mix. So they had to beat the Bills the last week of the season to make the playoffs. And the Bills were not a good team at the time. And it was a close game, and Fitz threw an interception like late in the game where they could have just kicked the field goal. He threw a pick in the end zone.
Yeah.
And that was the Fitz tragic. But a great career. So congrats to him. A lot of exciting and entertaining times with him for sure. But to get back on track with Fitz beating the Saints and Bucs having their issues with the Saints, that was my early days at Pewter Report. I was like just starting to intern.
That's right.
At Pewter Report. And I was like, oh, wow, like I think we might have something here. And then obviously everything went off the rails. But yeah, obviously the two teams that have been a thorn in the Bucs side, without question, has been the Rams and the Saints. I was actually at the last time that the Bucs beat the Rams. That was on the road in LA. Myself, Mark Cook, and Trevor Sycamore were all there. That was a crazy game. Shaq Barrett had an interception, and Ndamukong Suh had a scoop and score. It was like unbelievable. It was
55-40 was the final score of that game. And we were just talking about the Fitz magic win in New Orleans against the Saints. That was a shootout too. 48-40 was the final in that one. So the Buccaneers, last time they beat the Saints and last time they beat the Rams, they had to put 40+ points on the board to do it. Actually 48 points or more is what it took. So Tom Brady better loosen up that shoulder and get it ready because and hopefully they don't need that many. Hopefully Todd Bowles can figure out a way to stymie both of those teams. But you know what he did last time against the Saints? Man, the Saints won 9-0 in Tampa Bay. That was one of the best defensive performances all year by Todd Bowles and the Bucs defense. They just could not muster up any offense whatsoever in that game.
Yeah, and that was the infamous Chris Godwin injury game as well, too, that ended his season. I remember I was talking to someone recently, and they're like, we went to one game last year. It was the Saints game. It's like, oh, damn. Like, of all the games to go to, that was the one game where it was a dud for the Bucs. But going back to Jamel Dean's story too, obviously Tom Brady's going to have to be ready. But I really thought, and Scott, you asked a couple of players about, what's been the issue, and almost all of them were like, damn, that's a really good question. I wish I had the answer.
Yeah.
I know you asked Shaq, you asked Cam Brate a couple weeks ago, Jamel Dean as well too. And I really liked what Jamel Dean had to say. He said, I just think, this is him, I just think that when we play those two teams, we just get so emotional toward them that we don't play our game. So we just get undisciplined and just start making costly mistakes. When you play those teams, it's all about who makes the least amount of mistakes. We just get so emotional because it feels like a rivalry game. So they just keep their composure and we just lose ours. I think that's a great point. Shaq Barrett talked about too, that we didn't get sacks against the Rams. We didn't get turnovers against the Saints. And I think that's the biggest thing that you could point to, especially when you look at the reasons why they've lost to the Saints and look at the victory that they had against them in the playoffs. When Antoine Winfield Jr. punched out that ball on the tight end and they recovered, it changed everything. The Bucs won the turn. I know it's cliche, but the Bucs won the turnover battle that game, or at least went neck and neck with them with the turnovers. And that's why they defeated the Saints and went on to win the Super Bowl.
They picked off Drew Brees 3 times, right? I mean, it's been both. The Bucs offense has imploded. They just haven't put enough points on the board, a la the goose egg they put up when they played the Saints the last time. But if you look, Tom Brady has not played that well in those games, but that's only half of it. The other half is the defense has made those quarterbacks, whether it's Matthew Stafford or Drew Brees for some of those, or
Trevor
Siemian. Yeah, they've made them look really good. And Shaq Barrett had 1 sack and 1 interception against the Rams, and that was in 2019 out there in the game you were at. And since then, he has done nothing in terms of splash plays, and he owned it, but he's not alone. So the defense really has to step up because that was the key. I think the running game against the Saints in that playoff win in New Orleans was key. But then on the defensive side, they got the takeaways, right? They got the 3 interceptions. They got, Drew Brees' last pass was was intercepted by Mike Edwards, right? That was all she wrote. So that's what you're going to have to do if you're the Buccaneers to beat those teams. And some really good insight into the numbers and the quotes, whether it's the Fab Five with Shaq Barrett or whether it's the story that Bailey Adams did with Jamel Dean. So be sure to check those two out because, again, some really good insights into there. And you know what's so funny is Jamel Dean, just with his personality, he kind of comes across like a goofball, doesn't he?
He had the great line.
But he speaks the truth.
Yes. First of all, his greatest press conference of all time was after the Jets game. Because remember, him and Sean Murphy-Bunting, they had to take their own separate flight because they were on the COVID list. And then that flight was late and everything. Yes. Go back and watch that. It was an incredible story. But Jamel Dean was very funny, too, last week when we spoke to him. Because we asked him, and we've asked a lot of these players, you know, what's the difference now with Todd Bowles as the coach? And he was like, hey, he's the same to me. He's up my butt all the time. And it's,
exactly.
And, you know, it's just the sheer honesty I really appreciate. Because I understand some people or some players might be afraid to say certain things because, you know, things get taken out of context. But Jamel Dean was just straight and to the point. And, he's very hard on me. And he's always been that way. So,
cool and it's been fun to see the growth of Jamel Dean as someone who interacts with the media. And it's been different for us, right? Because the only time we've been in the locker room was during his rookie season in 2019. You know, the last 2 years because of COVID, we have not been able to be in the locker room. So our interaction with Jamel Dean has been the once in a while Zoom press conference, right? Or last year, if the team made him available outside where they did interviews. But it's not like you could go up to Jamel Dean a couple times a week and either catch him on the record or just have an off the record conversation with him, get to know him a little bit. But this was a guy who was really kind of tight-lipped and a little unsure of himself, maybe his rookie year. And then he's really kind of blossomed into this guy that just, I'm going to tell you the truth in my own unique way.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think more than anything else, he just feels more comfortable with himself. And I remember too, when they first drafted him, now granted, you know, he's a rookie. He's probably never done a vast, press conference like he did. Actually, it was a phone conference, like right after he got drafted, and he was speaking, and the only way I can describe it is that he was talking and it sounded like he was going to transition into like saying something else, and he just abruptly like stopped.
Yeah.
And everyone was like what is he is he still talking? To the point where he was like, hello? Like, is everyone there? Hello? Like we all just paused. We didn't know what to do. But now he's, knocking out home runs of interviews and press conferences. So it's great to see with Jamel Dean. And obviously it's going to be a huge season for him. We talked a lot about him, SMB, Mike Edwards, all in the last year of their deals, looking for that second contract. And that's another thing Jamel Dean spoke about too. We mentioned it last week on the show, but he's using it as motivation for the fact that I may never play football again if I don't get a contract after this. I think even if he has the worst year, he would end up signing somewhere. But, people are motivated in different ways. And if you have the fear of I will never play football again, I think you're going to have a pretty.
We played that last week. It's worth playing again just because it's good. Just because we're on the topic of Jamel Dean. So here we go.
About it and just got there and played football. How do you?
I use it as motivation because I'm treating it as if this could be my last year probably ever playing football again, so can't take anything for granted, so I just gotta give them my all.
Is it different than a year ago or anything like that, or is that something new for this year?
I did towards like the second half of the season, but this year is like, now it's for real now. So I just gotta improve my game just so I could just end this year off a good note.
Well, one of the key words what's that?
I was quoting what he said. It's for real now.
Yeah. Well, one of the key words that Jamel Dean said in there, and it brings us to the title sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast, which is Celsius energy drinks. What are you rocking today, man?
I got the sparkling, orange pomegranate.
Yeah. This is the second one I've had. This is the Fuji apple pear. I'm really on a Fuji apple pear kick. I know orange was my number one. Honestly, orange is number two now. For whatever reason, I'm just digging this Fuji apple pear. I still love apple juice as a kid, but apple juice is too sweet for me to drink now. Because this is sparkling, it's got a great balance of enough sweetness of the apple and pear, but it's not overpowering. And of course, Matt, the best thing about Celsius is the flavor. To me, it's exactly what you want in terms of the flavor. The peach tastes like peach. That's peach vibe, of course. Grape tastes like grape. Wild berry tastes like you got a bunch of berries in your mouth. But folks, the interesting thing about this is, did you know that Celsius has 7 essential vitamins in each can? And of course, no preservatives or artificial flavors or colors, and 0 sugar. So what that means is you're going to get the energy to live fit, the essential energy that you need, but you're not going to have that sugar crash. The reason I had 2 today is not because Celsius doesn't work. It does. The first one woke me up this morning. I'm going to have a workout after the show, heading to the gym, and Celsius powers my workout. Every single time I hit the gym, I try to smash a Celsius. It works like nobody's business. Make sure that you check out the new Arctic Vibe flavor. It joins the tropical vibe and the peach vibe and the vibe flavor family. And make sure that you're ordering them on Amazon. Go to Amazon, hit the subscribe and save feature, and they'll ship them right to your house, and you'll save some money. So Celsius, highly recommended. Appreciate Celsius sponsoring the Pewter Report podcast.
Another player that we will see this week that is also sponsored by Celsius is Leonard Fournette. We are going to see Leonard Fournette for the first time this season. There's a couple of players that we'll see for the first time. Tom Brady, as we mentioned, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, and Donovan Smith has been there, but he hasn't been there when OTA, like when the media has.
Correct.
But yeah, he'll be in attendance as well too. But defensively, with the exception of Lavonte David, everyone's been there at least one time. But yeah, I'm excited to see Leonard Fournette in particular because, you know, he just signed the new deal. Yeah. He's got Rachaad White there too. So I'm not saying it's competition, but just another player in the room that I'm sure Leonard will be a great teammate to. But I also think it wouldn't shock me if Leonard's got a little chip on his shoulder being like, all right, like I see there's someone new in town. This is still my job. So I'm excited to see Leonard Fournette.
I think the other guy that has a chip on his shoulder because of the addition of Rachaad White is Keyshawn Vaughn, right? I mean, they just spent a 3rd round draft pick on him a couple of years ago. He's now in his 3rd year. All of a sudden, they're drafting another running back in the 3rd round. Yeeks, you know, that's got to be a wake up call for Keyshawn Vaughn to really go out there and have a good camp, you know. And I don't have any rooting interest in anybody. If Keyshawn Vaughn decides to catch everything thrown to him in training camp and looks a little quicker and faster and breaks more tackles, great. We'll write that story. But we have yet to see it to this point. So in our view, Keyshawn Vaughn is who he is. And that's a guy that I think this team looks at as replaceable because they did spend that 3rd round draft pick in Rachaad White. And it's up to Keyshawn Vaughn to prove the team wrong.
Sure. And I think that is his role as, you know, the 4th string running back. Maybe we'll get in the game if there's injuries and things like that. But I also think that it's certainly an opportunity for him to prove his worth. Or again, you know, he's not in a contract year this year, but next season he will be. So he still has a great opportunity to show some value, especially in this preseason where I don't really think we're going to see Leonard Fournette too much in the games. And Giovanni Bernard's a veteran, so I don't think they're going to play him in all 3 games. I also think, too, Keyshawn Vaughn, he's played a little bit of special teams. That's another way. Yeah. You know, we saw guys like these guys are younger, but like Grant Stewart is on this team because he's a special teams ace, as you like to say. There's nothing wrong with making this team just being a great special teams player. That's right. Pat O'Connor, that's how Pat O'Connor's made the team.
Yeah. Rashad Robinson.
Who Cyril Grayson Jr. said is the fast. He's also good friends with him, and they are both LSU alumni. But he did say Rashard Robinson is the fastest player on the Bucs. There's a lot of options. Yeah, but he gave a shout out to his guy there. So
it's interesting that Cyril Grayson didn't say that he was.
That's what I expected him to say, but that's why he asked the questions.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a little bit of news today. We'll get to that. Nothing earth shattering, but the gentleman on the right wearing 67, that's Luke Gedeke, not Gedeke. Like I've been mispronouncing it all this time. It's Gedeke. No, I'm sorry. It's Gedeke.
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 Get a key.
Get a key. Thank you, Matthew. I need to practice on that. So I knew that because why? Because he signed his rookie contract today. He's signed, sealed, and delivered. And I would expect Logan Hall and Kate Otten and who's next? Jake Camarda.
Jake Camarda. Yeah.
Those are the 3 that need to be signed. I would expect they'll be signed pretty soon here. But the other guy that's Robert Hansey. He's competing along with Gedeke, as you would say.
Yeah.
for the left guard position along with Aaron Stinney. So we've got a little bit of Buccaneer news there to share. Still waiting on the Rob Gronkowski signing, but again, we'll probably wait till July for that. But one thing we're not going to wait for, Matt, is today's roll call. It's Monday.
That's right. Roll call. Pewter people, tell us where you are watching this show from, and we will put it up on the screen. Like as we said before, we got fans all over the place. So
yes,
really appreciate everyone doing that. And people are starting to put their places in there. So we will start putting them on the screen.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to make a quick little pitch out there to all you awesome Pewter people. We appreciate everybody who is tuned in to our live Pewter Report podcast during the week, Monday through Thursday at 4 o'clock in the off season. And we'll obviously have game day editions and all that during the season. But we also appreciate the super chats. We appreciate your support. And if you don't have a YouTube account, if you're not able to do super chats, or if you just want to donate in a different way, we have a place on our website on pewterreport.com/donation where you can donate one of two ways, either a one-time donation for as little as $10 or as much as you want to give, or you can become a monthly donor to Pewter Reports. And we appreciate those people that are our monthly donors. We've got several hundred of them. And you can donate for as low as $3 a month, $3, $5, or $9 a month options. And, we used to have a Pewter Report magazine back in the day where we had subscription revenue in addition to advertising revenue. Well, we don't have a paywall. There's no subscription to pewterreport.com. We will never have a paywall. So we're not going to charge people to come to pewterreport.com. It's always free. Same with our podcasts here. They're free. But if you'd love to subscribe to our monthly donation group, you can do that. Or you can, again, do that one-time donation, and we greatly appreciate that. And it's at pewterreport.com/donation. And what do we do with that money? Well, we have a travel budget. We go to the Senior Bowl. We go to the
Combine.
The Combine. We go to the NFL owners meeting. We'll hit some road trips this year. Now that we are going to have a full year where there's no COVID restrictions, et cetera. And we hope to go to Germany as well. That's something we're contemplating in the budget. So certainly appreciate all the help. Whenever we do remotes, we need equipment. You guys come through with the super chat donations and also these donations, and they help out tremendously. So you can consider it like an internet tip jar, if you will. So we greatly appreciate all of the gratitude and the donations that you've bestowed on us. So, and I also appreciate all the roll call there from around the globe here.
Yeah, I saw shout out Finland. I saw someone say they were from Finland in there. Got people in California as well too. So from East Coast to West Coast, North and South, all over the place. So that's awesome. Big Al says he's from Miami. Shout out Big Al. There should be a gym in my town, Big Al's. Everyone went to it.
There you go.
Where that started.
Well, that's good stuff. We also got some good stuff tomorrow. Again, we've got the mini camp starting tomorrow, 3-day mandatory mini camp, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. These are our earlier starts. So we're going to have some content up for you on pewterreport.com even earlier. And we'll have recaps during our Pewter Report podcast tomorrow night before the Lightning game. So that's the cool thing. We'll be done before the Lightning game. We're not doing any primetime podcast this week. It's all 4 o'clock. So we'll have the wrap up tomorrow. We're going to have a look at day one. We expect to see Tom Brady there. Right? We'll get a look at Tom. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we'll have day 2 of the minicamp analysis. So stay tuned to the Pewter Report podcast. And make sure, if you haven't done so already, that you have subscribed to our Pewter Report YouTube channel. Hit the like button on our videos, whether it's this podcast you're watching or listening to, or whether it's any of the content that Matt and our team have put up from press conferences, or whether it's a podcast that you might be listening to that isn't live, that you're enjoying at your leisure. That's the cool thing about Pewter Report TV. All of these episodes, Matt, they're right there on our YouTube channel, along with a lot of other great Bucs content.
Yeah, and we're cutting it up in different ways. Obviously, we have the full length, hour long, or however long we go. The whole episode of the podcast, we've cut it up into shorter clips as well, too, because I understand, sometimes it's tough to sit down and watch something for a whole hour. Your mind's racing. You're thinking about other things. You got other stuff to do. You're probably a busy person if you're, in your life. So, again, we appreciate everyone for watching. But if you don't want to watch the whole hour, if you just want to see us talk about Logan Hall or Jamel Dean or Mike Evans, whatever the category is. We cut that up into smaller pieces as well, too. Yeah, Mr. Wright was up in there talking a lot about having the magazines and Derek Brooks, face of the franchise as well, too. And also, we're going to take a lot of video that, we take that we've been taking from our press conferences with the coaches and players. And if there's anything that we think is of interest or that we think the fans might be interested in as well, we make sure we throw that on our YouTube as well, too, whether it's, Rashad White talking about bringing his helmet home or
good stuff.
On the podcast the other day, we talked about Warren Sapp, Warren Sapp, coaching up Logan Hall. That actually, we're getting close to 10,000 views. So thank you everyone for watching that video. But nonetheless, we got tons of video all over the place. Podcasts, practice, press conferences, a lot of people.
And we're going to have a ton more content this week because we're going to have press conferences. And I'm anticipating us getting Tom Brady at some point, whether it's tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. One of these days, Tom's got to talk to the local media. It just got to happen, right?
Isn't it crazy, too? Like, Tom he's been so busy between golf and, the Brady brand. We see him all over the place. It's almost crazy.
He's been too busy for us, though, Matt.
Yeah, but it's almost crazy that now it's like, okay, he's only going to focus on football. That's all he has left. He's got everything else going on, too. And I was just thinking, too, we might have to do this because we're in June, so we're halfway through the year. But the whole start of 2022 up until now has been absolutely crazy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think in, a week or two, we should do a show along the lines of the top 10 craziest things that have happened to the Bucs this year, whether it's the 27-3 comeback to lose, like this Brady retiring, unretiring. I don't want to give away all the content now, but in half a year, there's been insane stuff already.
This has been an offseason like no other. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And I think sticking with Brady here, we're finally at the Brady point. We talked a lot about Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask, and we will continue to do that because I think especially for Trask, he could be the future of the franchise. So we're going to keep talking about him. He could very well be the Bucs starter next year. We don't know yet. But
let's not slight. I'm not saying if you see there. Like Tom Brady, he's not tagging Kyle Trask like, okay, tag team, like you're in. This is like wrestling, right? Like tag, you're in.
Yeah.
Right? He's doing that to Blaine Gabbert. I think Dom might know something that we might not know, but we'll see.
Yeah. But the point I want to make, though, is obviously Tom has worked with a lot of these receivers, but one receiver that is new to his team, he hasn't practiced at OTAs, but we'll see this week. Something tells me with Tom in town that you might want to start building that chemistry as quickly as you can. But Russell Gage obviously is a newcomer on this team.
So let's get to the list. You're exactly right.
Sure.
Here we go. So we talked about Tom Brady's return, right? This is the first and only look we're going to have at Tom before training camp starts. But let's skip down to Russell Gage's return because Russell it was not there the first week or so, and then we finally saw him. It's not like he was being absent, but he's dealing with a little bit of an injury that we haven't seen him take the field and catch passes yet. So we'll see if Russell Gage is ready to return to action. And like you said, having Tom Brady there, that are you hurt or are you injured? There's a difference, right? You can play hurt. If you're injured, that's a different story. So it'll be interesting to see if Russell Gage is indeed cleared by trainers to get out there and catch some passes from number 12.
And we spoke to Todd Bowles, and he said, it's not that serious. It's just, all right, we're in, it was May at the time, but, we're in May, we're in early June. We don't need to, really push the envelope here and force anything with having him out there.
Right.
But again, I've seen on his Instagram too, like he posts videos of him like training and stuff like that. So I don't know how serious it could be, but I'm very intrigued, one, to just see how everything goes down with Russell Gage working with Tom Brady. I'm sure he'll love it because every receiver has enjoyed catching passes from Tom Brady. I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah, who wouldn't? But, with the understanding that Chris Godwin, we don't know how quickly he's going to be back. And we spoke about that a lot, whether it'll be during the preseason, whether it'll be a month into the regular season, worst case scenario. Cyril Grayson Jr. said that he thinks Chris Godwin's going to return sooner rather than later. He picked Chris Godwin as his surprise player of the season.
That's some great content. You and JC had a fantastic show with Cyril Grayson. Folks, if you have not had a chance to watch or listen to the last Pewter Report podcast we did, which was Thursday, Yeah, we had Cyril Grayson on, and that was some pretty revealing and eye-opening news, right? I mean,
yeah,
I tell you, Thursday's become like the day to tune into the podcast.
Yeah,
right?
Player Thursday.
Yeah, we'll have to get another player on for this Thursday. We'll find somebody to have on.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for the kind words. And yeah, he was awesome. And he said Chris Godwin's running up to 19 miles per hour. I thought that was surprising because I imagine that's pretty fast, but that's why I asked Cyril. I was like, how fast do you run? And he said 20.
Great follow-up question, because I
can't, track star, I want to know that.
I can't quantify what 19 miles an hour is. All I know is I can't run 19 miles an hour. I couldn't, if my life depended on it. But if it was like a wild animal chasing me, I'm just gonna play dead, because I'm not gonna outrun whatever animal is chasing me. Especially, 19 miles an hour sounds fast. So then when you asked Cyril, well, how fast can you run? He's like, 22. I'm like, okay, well, crap. You're like a world-class sprinter. And, you were talking about 3 miles per hour less for Chris Godwin. That tells me he's running pretty fast. And it's interesting that you talk about Russell Gage, because we want to find out where he's lining up. And, that's something that we did last week. We really honed in on our open media session day for the OTAs with Bucs safety Logan Ryan. Right? Where is he playing? Where is he lining up? And we found out that he was practicing exclusively with the safeties, right? He's with Nick Rapone and the Bucs safeties. But then we also did see him, Matt, as that nickel corner too. And maybe that's because Sean Murphy-Bunting wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
And that was planned. It's like, okay, well, he's not there, so you're going to step in as the replacement. We'll see if Sean Murphy-Bunting, when he returns, exactly how many reps we get from Logan Ryan in the slot. But Logan Ryan also did play a fair amount in the safety positions as well.
And he did blitz from the nickel position as well, too. Yeah. That was 2 weeks ago when SMB wasn't there. SMB was there last week.
That's correct, yes.
When we were in attendance, and didn't really see as much. It was a much lighter practice, just in terms of there wasn't as many veteran players, starters that were there. The secondary was actually pretty well represented. Everyone was there except for Antoine Winfield Jr. So in my opinion, and this is just me just making a hypothesis here, a guesstimation. Right. I think he's going to be moved around all over the place. Like, he might not, he'll play in 17 games. He might not be a quote unquote starter in every single game, but I think he's going to get significant playing time. I think he's going to move around at safety, so Antoine Winfield Jr. can be moved in different ways. And we got to talk about that too, where Antoine Winfield Jr., we know he's versatile, but he's at his best when he's moving around all over the place, when he's blitzing after the quarterback, when he's back there. And I think it's important to move him around because he's one of your best players. Why not put him in like the most, I don't want to say crazy situation, but we know Todd Bowles likes to dial it up and throw the kitchen sink out there.
I really think you're onto something here. And that's one thing we're going to look at too, is not just Logan Ryan, but also Antoine Winfield Jr., who I think he was there for one of the practices that we were at, but then not for the other. So we'll get a chance to see him and where he lines up too. It might be a thing too, and we know that Todd Bowles likes to look at matchups. It might be a thing where against this opponent in 1 week, you might see him predominantly lined up in the slot, lined up in the box, closer to the line of scrimmage for whatever reason, whether it's as a blitzer, whether it's in run support, or not week two, but the next week against another opponent, you might see him play more free safety. I think that's where Todd Bowles is going to be using Antoine Winfield Jr. the most, is where he needs him, where those favorable matchups are. And so that might really vary week to week.
Yeah, I think, the game plan for Antoine Winfield Jr. and the Bucs defense against the Cowboys is going to be different than when they play the Rams or, whoever else against the Seahawks or the Falcons. It's going to be different, week in and week out. It's just a matter of, what pick Todd Bowles is going to make in terms of the defense. And a great pick that you can make is by picking your team for Best Ball Mania 3 and the $10 million in prizes at Underdog Fantasy. You guys, first of all, the earlier you pick, the better, because last year they had a winner pick their team in June and they won $2 million in prizes. And the reasoning for picking your team earlier, I understand, like, the season goes on, the later you are into the summer, like, you start picking up on players, but that's when all the news about, the underdog, the unsung hero that is going to be a great fantasy pick, all those secrets are out by the end of the summer, where you don't get as much value when you pick those players other than picking them now in June. So now's actually a great time to do it. And Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy football. You draft your team. There's no in-season management. You just set it and forget it. There's optimal score each week. You don't got to worry about the buy or anything like that. And you have a shot at over at $10 million in total prize money with Best Ball Mania 3. So head to underdogfantasy.com or the App Store now and sign up with the promo code Pewter. And Underdog Fantasy is going to match your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, and sign up with the promo code Pewter. You could draft your Best Ball Mania 3 team today. They also have smaller games of $3, $5, $6. If you don't want to go into Best Ball Mania 3, you can just get some friends and family, do your own little league. So you can join the big league, you can join your own league. There's multiple different options, and they got a lot of great prop bets too. You know, you could bet on the Lightning game tomorrow. You could pick Stammer to have over 3 shots and, you know, Chris Kreider to have over 2. You just have to pick at least 2 picks on opposing teams. But yeah, make sure you go to underdogfantasy.com and get a chance to win $10 million, because unless you're a famous actor or actress or professional athlete, you could probably use $10 million. So
I know I could. Make sure you use that promo code Pewter when you do. Listen, let's stick on the offensive side here, because I think that's where we're probably most of what we're going to be looking at. Is going to happen. We talked about Tom Brady's return. I think the other thing is, and this is almost sacrilege on my part. Please forgive me, Blaine, for what I'm about to say. As the conductor of the Blaine train, I'm not betraying you. I'm just simply saying that Tom Brady's going to come back. He's going to get his reps in camp, which he wants and needs. You know, he's been away, you know, going to different sporting events, taking his kids to school, all those great things that he's been doing. But we know what Blaine Gabbert can do, and some of you would say can't do. I get that. But I think that you're laughing, but it's true. The thing is this is Kyle Trask's time, where and I explained this a little bit, I think, in the Bucs Monday mailbag. Blaine Gabbert has the trust of the coaches to be the number 2 quarterback. We've already seen Clyde Christensen, you know, kind of admit that. Todd Bowles wanted to, you know, do Kyle Trask a favor and say, not so fast. We're going to make this an open competition. But we know that Gabbert's going to be the number 2 guy. But what Trask can do, and what he has to do, is walk that fine line, Matt, between making enough plays and using practice with what practice is supposed to be, which is a lab. It's an experimental lab. It's, can I make this tight throw into this tight window? Do I have enough arm strength and velocity to throw, you know, this deep out, right? And it's developing chemistry with the players. He's got to make enough plays to get himself into that mix to where the coaches say, you know what? We really need to split some reps up between he and Blaine Gabbert in training camp, right? And make this more like a battle for number 2. Or what Kyle Trask has to do is say, I can't go out there and take too many chances and then end up throwing 3 picks a day each day, because then the coaches are going to say, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but man, you turn the ball over a lot, and we just can't risk that as the number 2. So Blaine is the clear-cut number 2. Kyle, you're going to get like 3rd string snaps, and we're going to have Ryan Griffin there just kind of chilling out as the 4th string quarterback. So I think that what I'd like to see in this week is less Blaine Gabbert. Ooh, gulp. That's hard for me to say. And more Kyle Trask. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Brady comes back and he gets, you know, the lion's share of the reps, and then those other reps were to go to Trask over Gabbert for this 3-day mini camp. I think that's probably what would best serve Kyle Trask. And at this point in time, I want to see what the kid's got. I want to see exactly how much promise he has. And I think at this point, because Ryan Griffin didn't get any reps that we saw during the OTAs. Yeah. So don't make this a pie that you're going to cut up 3 ways. Keep it, you know, cut in half. Brady gets the starters. Then you've got the young kid getting the other half. That's just how I see it.
I was surprised you said that out loud about Blaine. That
I know it was hard.
It was tough. But Scott, I think you made a fantastic point on Wednesday where you were essentially saying we were talking about how Trask threw some balls that went as PBUs, one should have been intercepted. And you made the point, and you said it here too, about practice being a lab, and you got to see where you make the mistakes and where you don't make the mistakes. So I thought that was a great point that everyone should keep in mind for minicamp this week. And it's funny, when you look at this, I guess we'll call it competition for QB2. Blaine Gabbert is like that local restaurant that's, near your house or apartment where you live, where that place. You can go there if you want to.
Yeah, and that would be like the Wesley Chapel with Lori days for me.
Exactly. It's like you like that place, you know what you're getting, but there's this other place, and that's Kyle Trask. You might not know if it's better. It may be better. It may be worse, and the food can absolutely suck. But you don't know.
If I don't eat there, I'm not going to know.
You don't know until you try. But you know what you're going to get with Blaine Gabbert in that restaurant.
Yep.
And I think it's important, too, and Kyle Trask hasn't really gotten this a lot because he was the third string or working with the practice squad. And with mandatory minicamp, presumably everyone will be there. I know Chris Godwin is injured, and we'll see what's up with Russell Gage. But I want to see Kyle Trask work with more than just the undrafted free agents or, the sixth or seventh wide receivers.
Yeah.
I want to see, and it might not happen because, again, Brady's going to get most of the work. And if he's on a break, then probably the rest of the starters will be on a break too. But I want to watch Kyle Trask throw the ball to Mike Evans. I want to watch Kyle Trask operate with the best of the best that the Bucs have to offer. Because I know, like, skill-wise, Kyle Trask is fine. He might not be the elitist of the skills. But let's remember, at Florida, he had some grade A talent with the Gators. And he obviously put them in the best position to succeed. And that's why you saw Kyle
Pitts, Tony, all those guys.
Exactly. So Kyle Trask doesn't need to be the next Tom Brady. He doesn't even need to be a quote-unquote elite player. I just think with the talent the Bucs have around them, let's give Kyle Trask an opportunity to work with some of the great players. We haven't really seen that too much, and that can help elevate Kyle Trask's game too.
It could.
There's sometimes the throws might not exactly be there. It might not be there throwing to Jalen Darden, and I'm still very high on Jalen Darden. But that throw could be there when you're throwing it to Mike Evans. So I would like to see a little bit of that.
You're right, and we'll see if D. Delaney keeps being the top cornerback on the roster.
He's been the MVP of Bucs practice so far this season, like without question. It's been D. Delaney.
So let's return to our list here. So we've got the Trask and Gabbert reps as we want to see it. We'll see what happens. We talked about Russell Gage's return. Leonard Fournette being in shape. This is something kind of got like a little bit of wink and nod and a little bit of like inside scoop on this offseason. That the Bucs weren't thrilled with Fournette's weight at times last year. He's a big man, so he has the ability sometimes to put on a little bit of weight. So it'd be interesting to see with him staying away from OTAs, what level of weight he shows up at. Is he lean and trim and ready to go, excited about this new contract and making $7 million a year? Because he had a great year last year. He would have had over 1,000 yards rushing, Matt, if he didn't end up getting hurt. But sometimes, and we've seen it, even Ryan Jensen admitted it, he became a fat cat. He got that contract, reported to the team in 2018, and did not have a good year. He was a little bit overweight. Then he trimmed down in 2019, had a much better season, played like the guy that they expected him to be coming from Baltimore. And then, of course, 2020, won a Super Bowl, led him, all the way to the Super Bowl, made the Pro Bowl last year. But Ryan Jensen would tell you he did not have a great year. He kind of let that contract get to his head. And I've seen it sometimes with these players. It can work one way or another. And so I'm curious to see what type of shape Leonard Fournette shows up in. Remember, last year it was a different story, right? He and Ronald Jones were competing for that starting job. Now he's essentially been handed it to him. And when you're making $7 million a year, you better be the starter, right?
You might be called weight loss, Lenny, this training camp, depending on what goes. I hear what you're saying, and we spoke about this before. I just think at the end of the day, like Leonard Fournette is a competitor. Like he's a gamer. He likes to go out there and prove that he's the guy. And, he's earned it. That was a hit to his ego when he got cut by the Jaguars and went to the Bucs and wasn't the number one guy anymore.
Right.
We wrote about that a lot on Pewter Report. He's talked about it. Bruce Arians talked about it on our show. And but now he's the man again. And obviously he went on the great Super Bowl run. We all know what went on there. Didn't get the deal that he expected last offseason, so he had to sign another 1-year deal with the Bucs. But I don't think the money is going to change Leonard Fournette. I think he's a guy that is motivated enough just to want to be a great player. I think too, we talked about this before, how Leonard Fournette apologized to his fantasy football people that owned him on their fantasy football teams. He apologized to them because he wasn't performing, not because the Bucs weren't doing well. It's just, you have so much talent on this team with Mike Evans, Gronk last year, hopefully this year, and everyone like that. So he apologized to them. So I think he wants to do it for himself. He wants to do it for the fans.
And he's older, right? With age comes wisdom and experience. At least you hope that's the case. I think it's the case. Tom Brady, I think, has been a tremendous influence.
Yes, that
on
too.
Leonard Fournette, the professional.
That can't be overlooked. I agree.
Yeah. So we'll get a look at him, and that'll be interesting to see Lenny and how he looks.
Yes, Scott, one last thing about Leonard Fournette.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think, too, like Todd Bowles is the type of coach, maybe it's more of a defensive thing, too, a defensive-minded coach, where it is Leonard Fournette's job. We understand that. We know that. Rachaad White is in there. He's a rookie. He's not going to take Leonard Fournette's job. But if Leonard Fournette doesn't bring it, I don't think Todd Bowles will hesitate at all to say, let's give Rachaad White more snaps, or let's make him the starter. If he proves it, of course. Right. He's not going to blindly give him the job. But I don't think Leonard Fournette will rest on his laurels, because
I agree.
If he's slacking, Todd Bowles will not hesitate to change him out.
I definitely agree with you on that part. We talked about Russell Gage's return. Chris Godwin, I'm sure we're going to get an update, right? This will be our last update officially from Todd Bowles, whether it comes tomorrow or Thursday, whenever he decides to talk about Chris Godwin and where he is. So far, it's kind of been a little bit of an elusiveness when it comes to describing him, right? There's no timetable, right? He's, a milestone is when he takes the field again, right? I mean, it's been talking in platitudes and no real concrete measurables in terms of where he's at. I think Chris Godwin was even asked, where are you at? Put a percentage on it. And he wouldn't do that. So it would be interesting to see if we get an update, because, once these guys are done, Matt, you're looking at 7 weeks probably before the start of training camp. And of course, a lot can happen there. And I really think that the best update we've had on Godwin was from Cyril Grayson. If he's running 19 miles an hour, at least in a straight line, that's good. What comes next is cutting, right? Cutting, putting weight on it, making those wide receiver type moves. But hell, running 19 miles an hour on a surgically repaired knee, that's pretty good progress.
That's funny. That's exactly what I was going to say, was that Cyril Grayson Jr. gave us the best update about Chris Godwin that we've heard from any player or coach across the board. Do you want to give a shout out real quick to Jim? Thank you for I don't know what, it's a $10 super chat, but it's not US
I think
American.
It's pounds.
Thank you, Jim, for the 10 pounds or whatever currency that is. Thank you very much for that. He says, I really appreciate your professionalism, knowledge, and still an entertaining way to conduct your show. Let's get 10,000 subscriptions. Keep on doing the great work, guys. Love from Finland. Thank you so much, Jim. That was the Finland where I saw that during roll call. So Jim from Finland, thank you so much for that. But back to Chris Godwin. He wasn't practicing, but at the first OTAs about 3 weeks ago, he wasn't on the field, but he was kind of like where the media was standing to. He had just looked like he had just finished a workout. He had like a towel on his shoulder. And I think it was one of those situations where he was watching and then realized, like, oh crap, like the media's here. I probably shouldn't be outside.
Right.
And but he was there watching. So we know he's been at the facility, and Cyril Grayson Jr. mentioned that as well too. Obviously, watching him run up those 19 miles per hour. So we haven't seen him besides that. I don't think we're going to see him again too. And unfortunately, I don't think Todd Bowles is going to say anything other than he'll be ready when he's ready.
Exactly. But we'll ask him at least. We'll do our part.
Yeah.
I think that was either a euro. I think it's a euro.
Whatever Finland currency is,
or it could be the Finnish marka. But I don't think that's the case anymore, because that was the currency up until February 2002, when it ceased to be a legal tender. So I guess the euro replaced the Finnish marka. That's your Finland education today.
Yeah, there you go. We are a Finland podcast.
We are, yes.
We're America, Finland, Germany, and if the Bucs go back to London,
exactly.
Where everyone's podcast.
Wherever the Buccaneers play, we're there.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Wherever there are Buccaneer fans, which they're across the world watching this podcast, we appreciate that. And we're going to do roll call again next Monday, so make sure you stick around for that. Let's see where we're on this list. Tight end Cade Otton. All right, what's his prognosis in terms of the recovery? I think, and I could be wrong, but I think there was some talk that he could possibly be ready for the mandatory minicamp. That might just be something I'm imagining, but I am 50, so I am prone to imagination. I'm also prone to forgetfulness, so it could be one or the other. But at some point in time, we're going to see Cade Otton. It could be tomorrow, or it could be training camp. But I think it's one or the other. And I'm not sure what he said, but this was a guy that had ankle surgery, I want to say in November, back in Washington. He missed the last couple of games with an ankle injury. So he's still recovering from that. And we asked him about it the last time we spoke to him. And he said he's been doing some football things and workouts, but he's been wearing that cap and not participating during the OTAs. So whenever you have a cap and no helmet, that means you're injured. So we'll see when we see Cade Otton. It might be this week. It might be training camp. But if it's not this week, it will be training camp.
Yeah, he's been spending a lot of time with Grant Stewart. Grant Stewart hasn't really practiced either.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they are always standing right next to each other. Even like when the guys are stretching and stuff, and everyone's around. So I haven't seen him. I am very excited to see what Otton can do, though, because, and we'll see what happens with Gronk, and we all expect Gronk to be back. But, outside of Cam Brate, it's, you have a couple undrafted free agents and Cade Otton and Cody McElroy as well, too. But Otton's going to have an opportunity to not be the number one tight end, but be a third string tight end and make some contributions to the offense this year. So not that often where you get a player picked, on day 3,
right,
where they get a big opportunity like that. But I think Cade Otton will. So, the sooner he can get out there, the better.
Exactly. And then I think the last thing on the offense that I'm curious to see, and again, not taking any shots here whatsoever. It's just that being a big guy, Donovan Smith, there have been some times where he's been a little heavy. Last year, and this is a picture of him last year, he's a big guy. He's not going to be some svelte left tackle. He's a 330 plus guy. That's just how, who he is. He's a dancing bear. He's got athleticism galore. That's why he's a second-round pick. He's one of the better left tackles in the game. And I thought the last 2 years with Tom Brady, he's really stepped up his game. And I think Brady has affected Donovan Smith maybe even more so than anybody else in terms of just one player. And Smith has taken his game to the next level. Yeah, he struggled a little bit against Von Miller. He wasn't the only one that struggled against Von Miller last year. But Donovan Smith, I think, really came to camp in great shape, and I thought he had a really good year. And I think that the numbers from Pro Football Focus, I believe, bear that out. Not the holy grail when it comes to grading offensive linemen, but a good resource. But still, we haven't seen Donovan Smith. Sometimes bigger guys, we've seen Vita Vea show up, and he's got to shed some weight for sure. But it'll be interesting to see if Smith is going to pick up from where he left off from a conditioning standpoint, from a play level standpoint. This is a big year for Donovan Smith, right? He's going to be angling for a new contract here sooner rather than later, and I'm curious just to see how he looks.
I'm not really too concerned about Donovan Smith. I think he's a true professional. He's, an Iron Man in this game. He is. Hasn't missed a game. He plays injured all the time. Oh, I shouldn't say all the time, but he's played hurt. Like I remember again earlier in the show, I was talking about when I first started at Pewter Report. I remember like early on, he suffered a bad injury in training camp where we didn't know. I think it was the New Orleans game with Fitz going off, where we didn't know if he was going to be ready by the beginning of the season, but he was able to shake it off and obviously went out there and did his thing. And he's another player. Yes, he's looking for that next contract, but he also earned the big payday a couple of seasons ago. So, he's a player that, again, he got the money. He still played at an all-time level. And sure, Tom Brady is the ultimate motivating factor because everyone wants to play well for him. But, offensive line, again, you're never going to worry about Tristan Wirfs other than his ankle, but he looked pretty good. Shadow boxing, I'll call it, with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Not really worried. Yeah.
I was going to say, whenever you and I are on, news always tends to break. Now, this does not really have anything to do with the Buccaneers yet, but they will be playing this guy and this team again this year. Whoa. Ian Rappaport, sources tell him, the Rams have reworked all-world defensive tackle Aaron Donald's 3 remaining years of his contract to give him a massive $40 million raise through 2024, making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history at age 31. He gets $95 million now through 2024. So I think that's an average of something like $30 million a year, making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in the league, and he deserves it. I mean, Super Bowl champion, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Probably should have won Super Bowl MVP too. He made all the big plays at the end when the voting was already done.
I hate that, man. I hate that.
It doesn't. I understand like media has to like go downstairs and all that stuff, but it's
kind of like with the Pro Bowl, right? And honestly, I hope they just do away with the Pro Bowl altogether. The game itself is just a shell of its former self. It's awful.
Yeah,
but why are you doing your Pro Bowl balloting and voting with like 3 games left in the season? Why don't you legitimately wait until the end of the season? What happens if some running back runs for a pair of 200-yard games, right, and ends up being the leading rusher? And you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's those types of things. What if somebody goes on a sack streak and picks up 6 sacks over the last 3 games, and now they're the sack leader with 16 sacks, but they only had 10 before and they didn't get the Pro Bowl votes? I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't understand. I don't understand why baseball and hockey do the All-Star game halfway through the season. I know they're looking for an event, but what about the guys like in the second half of the season that step up? I don't know.
No, I agree. It's a good point. And I think too, everyone has a cell phone today, so you could just do it by the phone. So doesn't matter whether you're in the press box or downstairs or wherever. You just do it by the phone, and it seems easier that way. But good for Aaron Donald. Obviously, he's earned it, as you said. He's a great player, and we thought he was going to play this year anyway, so it doesn't really change much from the Bucs standpoint. They're still going to have to block him.
Well, where it's going to change is Aaron Donald's financial picture, that's for sure. And boy, if I'm Aaron Donald and I got all that money, there's only one place I'm calling, folks, and that's Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you? Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it. All right.
Yeah. We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Ooh, I tell you, Aaron Donald could pretty much buy the state of Colorado with how much money he'd be getting. But listen, whether you're Aaron Donald and have $95 million coming to you, or you're just trying to save up to $250,000, $500,000 for your retirement, or maybe your kid's college, and you want to start a college savings account, there's one place to do it, folks. Do what I did. Call Immuni Financial. Talk to David, talk to Mark. Those are some great people. They got a great team there that can help you plan ahead and stay ahead when it comes to your finances. Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It's legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, insurance services, 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, and folks that can help you across the country too. Let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Give them a call like I did. 1-800-868-6864, or visit them on the web at Immuni Financial.
Aaron Donald's already out west, so he's right over there.
He's closer to Colorado than we are.
Yeah.
We're close to wrapping up this show, but before we get out of here, we have a couple of newsy things here on the defensive side. A couple of items we're going to be looking for. One of them, Matt, is getting Akeem Hicks the first look in red and pewter. See how he looks. He's a massive man, 6'5", 335. He's a big dude.
Yeah, I wonder. They haven't announced what number he's going to wear, and there's not too many 90s available on the roster. Do they give him 93? I mean, they gave JPP's number to Logan Hall. Do they give him Gerald McCoy and Ndamukong Suh's number?
Yeah. Well, wasn't Steve McClendon 96?
McClendon was 96.
Okay,
So yeah, you could go with that.
Yeah. I think he's probably going to stick with 96. That's my guess. But wouldn't it be badass if he just had says, I'm going to be number 5? Right?
I was thinking a single digit number.
Yes.
You know,
I love that. I love single, especially in college when you've got, some big old nose tackle, some fat ass who's like 330 and he's got number, 2.
Yeah, it'd be funny if he's like, yeah, my favorite number is 9, but I couldn't wear that in the NFL until this year, so I'm just number 9.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka would have some beef with that.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, the other thing too is Akeem Hicks was a leader, right, in Chicago. And I think when you look at upgrades, we talked about this last week, I'm not going to belabor the point, but you're talking about a huge upgrade when you go from Steve McClendon to Akeem Hicks, right? And I think that upgrade is huge, and that could make up for any type of differential that's maybe, listen, there's going to be a learning curve for Logan Hall. He's not going to step in the game and be as good as Ndamukong Suh, who's played for over a decade and knows the tricks of the trade and all that stuff. Is he going to be faster and more athletic? Yes, but experience counts for something. So I think any deficit in that exchange between Ndamukong Suh and Logan Hall, you're going to make up for that when Akeem Hicks is in the game, because he's just going to be a better version of Steve McClendon, who got a lot of rotational snaps in the mix as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, and we're obviously not going to find this out right away at minicamp. More of a training camp answer where we'll find it out. But just what that rotation is going to be. Is Logan Hall definitively the number 1 guy? I know we talked about a lot too that Logan Hall is more of the replacement for Ndamukong Suh, not Akeem Hicks. Hicks is more of a Will Golston type of player, or just where he lines up in that stature. So, will he be the number 1 guy? Will Hicks, split it, whether it's 55-45 or, right down the middle. So that'll be fun to see. Of course, Hicks going up against Ryan Jensen, I think it's going to be awesome. Or Luke Gedeke or Aaron Stinney or Shaq Mason. I think those in the trenches matchups will be great too, because players always complain that they don't like. That's why they love joint practices so much, because you're not hitting your own guy. You're going up against other people, and they say it gets monotonous of going up against your own teammates. Well, yes, they are teammates. They are new to each other, though. So
that's right.
I think you'll get a little more intense competition with a new guy on the team that's obviously established in the league, but probably wants to, get some recognition as a good player here in Tampa Bay. So I think that'll be fun. And then the last story, a lot of the stories we've had is more on the offensive side of the ball, understandably so. Defense, not as much, but, it doesn't seem like Lavonte David is going to be at OTAs. He's still recovering, mandatory minicamp. Still recovering from that foot injury that he suffered last season, and obviously limited him in the playoffs. So that means KJ Britt will be the guy at inside linebacker lining up next to Devin White. And, we saw Britt pretty much take command during OTAs because Devin White was only there for 1 practice. Right. And a lot of the coaches in place, like Devin White, gave a raving review of KJ Britt. Todd Bowles spoke very glowingly of him too. And he played, I thought he played well. Granted, it's OTAs. There's no shoulder pad or, padding and helmets. And there are helmets, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. But, it's one thing when you're going up against Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. Now you're going up against Tom Brady and, all the other starters. So this is and training camp again too, we'll see more of this, but this is a big opportunity for KJ Britt to really solidify, because the Bucs can decide, all right, maybe we're not totally sold on KJ Britt being a number 3. And that's where you get a veteran linebacker that gets signed right before training camp. Right. Whether they go back to Kevin Minter, whether they go in another direction, they could still bring in a veteran inside linebacker. But if they trust KJ Britt enough, if he has a good practice over these next 3 days, it could be his job for the taking. Yeah, for sure. And that could be the future at the linebacker position. I'm not ready to make that claim yet. I mean, there's a huge drop off from Lavonte David to KJ Britt, especially in terms of athleticism. But Britt has a chance to prove us wrong, and we'll see. I mean, if the Buccaneers end up getting a starting caliber linebacker, and he doesn't have to be an all-world player like Lavonte David. Yeah. Shelton Quarles played for 10 years in Red and Pewter, went to the Pro Bowl 1 time. That was as the middle linebacker in the Super Bowl year. Great year to do it, but he was a steady Eddie, and sometimes you need that. You need at least a B player, right? And the thing is you want A players across the board, but you can't find A players every year. You only have so many draft picks. You only have so much cap room. But
if you can, if KJ Britt can prove himself as a B player, then he is a player that could end up starting and replacing for Lavonte David whenever David, decides to hang him up or the time has come. And then maybe, you're on the lookout for that A linebacker to team with Devin White. But in the meantime, you have a B. But like you said, this is a big, big camp. And also, Matt, you also pointed out in our pregame talk that this is really the first time we're going to see the entire defense together. So we've seen Carlton Davis here, but then, gone. Same with Sean Murphy-Bunting. We've seen Shaq Barrett at a practice and then gone. And same with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Vita Vea wasn't there, then he was. So this would be the first time we've seen the entire Bucs defense together for a practice, and then you throw in the mix KJ Britt as that quote unquote new starter while Lavonte David's still in the mend.
Right. It's an opportunity for Britt to go against number ones on offense, but also to work with all the starters. He hasn't done too much of that. And I'm excited to see that as well, too, just for the whole defense, because I think this is going to be a bounce back year for the defense. Not that the defense was bad, but to the expectations that they themselves have, and we as viewers watching them, I think we expected a little bit more from the Bucs defense last year.
So many injuries at the cornerback position. So many times it was just like, hang on, right? It was just like,
and again,
do what you got to do to survive rather than thrive. And I think if everyone's healthy, this is one of those years where you get a lot of players in contract years. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean, Mike Edwards, right? Those are all guys that are in contract years. Devin White's going to have 2 years to show what he's got for his next contract. Lavonte David entering a contract year. So it's a big year for a lot of players on defense, no doubt about it.
Without question, like 100%. And I just think, too, again, like their defense was okay. But we talked about earlier in the show where they made Trevor Siemian look like a Pro Bowl quarterback, and not like not the seventh Pro Bowl quarterback that got asked because Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers declined, like a legit Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and Heineke in Washington too. I mean,
and they lost that.
Carson Wentz looked good for a half. I mean,
and then Antoine Winfield Jr. got the pick, and it changed everything.
Exactly. Well, folks, everything's going to change tomorrow because I'm not kidding, Matt. I mean, today was a fantastic show. It really was. I got a feeling tomorrow is going to be the best podcast we've ever done because we're going to see Tom Brady. We're going to tell you all about it. So make sure that you stay tuned for Pewter Report podcast tomorrow. We're going to have our minicamp wrap up from day one, and make sure that you're subscribing to Pewter Report TV on our YouTube channel and hitting that like button on our videos. That really helps us out. For Matt Matera, I'm Scott Reynolds. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock for another edition of the Pewter Report.